intent of keeping the conversation going to potentially tweak the language of the bill specifically for the number of items. 1,200 seems to be pretty low based on testimony that we received during the public hearing. And if our goal is to have these redemption centers increase in number across the state of Connecticut, then language in this bill that becomes cumbersome for them is something that we need to consider. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks for your comments, Rep. Gresco. Rep. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Senator Lopes bringing this bill up because when we passed this last year, I believe it was, there were comments on the floor from myself and others about the problems it's caused. And we knew that the border towns were going to be a problem with people coming in. We didn't realize it'd be tractor trailers full and not just mail trucks with Newman and Kramer. So it's imperative that we do something because on the off session, we did meet, several of us met with grocery store owners and redemption centers, and the testimony the other day certainly shows that we have a major problem. So hopefully there'll be an enforcement end to this. And whether it's DRS or DP, someone's going to have to get some enforcement done because it's becoming such a problem. So it's a good first step, and I appreciate bringing it up. Thanks.
Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do support this bill. I want the bottle bill to work, and I oppose fraud. In the past, we've made a lot of changes to the bottle bill, most recently to raise the deposit from 5 to 10 cents, which only 2 other states do, California and Michigan. I know California has a huge problem with cross-border bottle bill. They even called it an organized crime effort. In our testimony, one person used the term syndicate. In California, they have a dedicated task force just to enforce the bottle bill. They even check at the border, folks coming from Arizona to Nevada. If we come back in the next year or two with a SWAT team to enforce the bottle bill and border checks, I think we need to rethink the whole bottle bill. We have similar state stars, I'd say, in the political climate, Rhode Island, New Jersey, that have rejected the bottle bill. In fact, only 11 states have one. We already have mandatory recycling, and so I think if we have to keep doubling down on fraud and with little results, I do think we should relook at the whole bottle bill and let people govern themselves and do the right thing and recycle. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Representative Dubitsky, nice to see you here.
Thank you. I think that at some point we need to reconsider the whole bottle bill, whether it's actually saving anything, whether it's actually saving money, whether it's saving the environment, whether it's actually preventing, whether it's actually saving the use of fossil fuels. This bill is fine for today, but I do think at some point we need to look at whether or not we're actually saving anything, or if we're just wasting time, wasting money, wasting fuel. And this cross-border issue is kind of indicative of the problems that we can start getting into, and we can start going down rabbit holes left and right. I'm just not sure that we're actually helping in any way with this bill, or whether we would be better off just trashing everything. I don't know. But I do think that it's important for us to at some point take a good look and see if we've actually helped in any way, because I'm not sure we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative D'Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to respectfully disagree with my colleagues who apparently are not pleased with the bottle bill. I would assert, and I think history would demonstrate, that the bottle bill has served this state quite well for over 4 decades. Obviously, like anything else, it needs to be upgraded and it needs to be improved as we go along to accommodate for certain situations. But by and large, I think Connecticut can be proud of the fact that we instituted the bottle bill back in the 1980s and that we took steps, pretty significant steps, about 4 years ago to modernize and upgrade the legislation. So with regard to this particular legislation in front of us today, I am going to have a different approach than some of my colleagues. I share the concern and I share the desire that my colleagues have expressed to do something about the cross-border redemption fraud that is taking place. But I would respectfully suggest that this bill is not the way to do it, or this bill might be the way to do it, but it's not the complete way to do it. It's a real disappointment to me that we've been talking about this for years. We've been talking about the possibility of instituting some type of state-specific labeling on bottles and cans, and yet we haven't been able to accomplish that. My concern with this bill, it's good insofar as it goes, but the two major problems, number one, it puts the whole onus on the redemption centers to do a lot of paperwork and a lot of administrative work, and which I think is not the complete answer. What it doesn't do, it doesn't do anything to require the manufacturers to institute some kind of technological solution, such as state-specific labeling, in order to get at the root of this problem. By not having state-specific labeling, you're inviting fraud. You're giving people the opportunity to participate in fraud. I think we need to bring the manufacturers to the table, and they know that the technology exists. We've got all kinds of machines, reverse vending machines, and so forth. Bring them to the table, Mr. Chair, and let's do something to get at the root of the problem. Now, I know the objection is going to be that legally there's going to be a legal challenge to state-specific labeling. However, what I would suggest is that we make it voluntary. In other words, we can't force the manufacturers legally to do this, but we can hopefully work out something between the manufacturers, the distributors, and the state of Connecticut to make this a voluntary system that will ultimately result in much less fraud. It will be costly, obviously, to do any kind of labeling, but the cost has to be weighed against what's going on now, which is a pretty significant loss due to fraud. So I'm disappointed that this bill doesn't do anything to bring the manufacturers into the equation. It just puts the onus on the redemption centers, and therefore I think that it's inadequate, and I'm not going to be able to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
This is a roll call vote for Senate Bill 1115 to JF to the floor. Senator Lopes,
Yes.
Representative Parker,
Yes.
Senator Hockedel,
Senator Hockenhuff votes yes.
Senator Harding, Representative Callahan,
Yes.
Representative Anderson,
Yes.
Representative Arzeno,
Arseno, yes.
Representative Chafee, Senator Cohen,
Yes.
Representative D'Amico,
D'Amico votes no.
Representative Dillon,
Representative Dillon votes yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky,
Yes.
Representative Gresco,
Yes.
Representative Gucker,
Gucker votes yes.
Representative Horn,
Yes.
Representative Jacobson, Representative Jensen,
Yes.
Representative Johnson, Representative Leeper, Senator Marr,
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky, Representative Mashinsky, Representative O'Day,
O'Day, no.
Representative Piscopo,
Piscopo, no.
Representative Paletta, Representative Reddington Hughes,
No.
Representative Reyes, Representative Ryan, Representative Smith,
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon,
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart, Representative Steinberg,
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Representative Sweet,
Sweet votes yes.
Representative Veach,
Veach votes yes.
Mr. Clerk?
yes, Representative Mashinsky,
Mr. Clerk, Mashinsky votes no.
thank you, and Representative Chafee, I see you online as well.
Representative Chafee votes yes.
And that completes the roll, and Senator Harding.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next up on our list is item number 5, SB 1495, an act concerning the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection's review of surplus state property. This is LCO 6803, and I will entertain a motion to JFS to the floor. So moved by Senator Lopes. And seconded by Representative Callahan. Thank you. Are there any questions about this bill?
Got to set.
Oh, Rep. Doucette, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to see this get out of committee today. I did want to flag one issue. It's a very simple bill, but the language with respect to siting of renewable energy facility, I just want to flag the issue of particularly small solar photovoltaic farms on core forest and farmland has been sort of an emerging issue here. I had one in my district that was proposed on core forest and then subsequently learned of multiple ones throughout the state that exist on farmland. So I would just like to flag that issue. Certainly, I'm not stating that that is the intent of this, but something that I think we want DEEP to be mindful of moving forward. So would like to perhaps see some more work on this particular bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, in lieu of the fact your chairmen are working hard and a little overwhelmed, I deputize you to speak to DEEP to ask them your questions about this bill. Any further questions? Rep. Callahan. Oh, sorry, Representative Steinberg online. Didn't see you.
No problem, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment to say this is a good bill. We started talking about using underutilized state land for potentially for solar panels 10 years ago when I was chairing the Pension Sustainability Commission. The state maintains a list of properties. It should be fairly straightforward for DEEP to analyze which properties make the most sense for that and could be most easily integrated into the grid. This bill is long overdue, and I appreciate the chairs bringing it forward.
Thank you, Representative. Any further questions? Seeing none online, Rep. Callahan.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move number 5, which is Senate Bill 1495, to the consent calendar.
Seeing no objections, so moved. Next item.
Next up is number 6 on our list, 7171. An act concerning certain caretaker authorization for the agricultural experiment station. I'll entertain a motion to JF to the floor.
So moved.
So moved by Representative Gresco and seconded by Senator Lopes. Are there any questions or comments on this bill? Rep. Callahan.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move item number 6, House Bill 7171, to the consent calendar.
Thank you. Seeing no objections, so moved. Mr. Clerk, item 6 to the consent calendar. Next up is item number 7, HB 7170, an act concerning certain recommendations of the Department of Agriculture regarding aquaculture. I will entertain a motion to JF to the floor.
So moved.
So moved by Rep. Gresco, seconded by Rep. Shannon. Thank you. Are there questions or comments on this bill? Rep. Callahan.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we move item number 7, House Bill 7170, to the consent calendar.
Thank you. Seeing no objections, so ordered. Next up on our list is number 8, HB 7172, an act concerning the Sewage Right to Know Act. I will entertain a motion to JF this bill to the floor. Excuse me, to appropriations. JF to appropriations for number 8. So moved by Rep. Shannon. Can I get a second by Rep. Gresco? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this bill? Rep. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that we move item number 8, House Bill 7172, to the consent calendar.
Seeing no objections, so ordered. I'll say quickly, thank you, Rep. Reyes, for your work on this issue. Looking forward to continuing this one forward. Next up on our list is item number 9, HB 7174, an act concerning riparian buffers and associated environmental provisions. Let me just get the LCO number 6802. I'll entertain a motion to JFS this bill to the floor.
So moved.
Moved by Representative Mashinsky, thank you, and seconded by Rep. Gresco, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this bill? Rep. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to confirm on this bill, Section 14 has been removed, correct?
Indeed.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think this has I'm definitely in favor of buffers, but I still think this has work to be done on it. I know buffers are a benefit to our water bodies, and they filter lots of nutrients. So I think they're a good idea, but I still have a couple concerns with this bill, and I may flag it with a no today.
Understood. Thanks, Rep. Callahan. Further questions or comments? Rep. Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I admit I have not yet seen the S language. The fact that Section 14 is out is it's actually a surprise to me. But the riparian areas around wetlands, every wetland and water course in the state is an enormous swath of land. In some towns, it could take up most of the town. And we currently have statutes that empower the wetland commissions to protect the upland review areas around the wetlands and water courses. We empower them with the discretion to look at each instance and determine whether or not any given activity is going to injure or harm those vital resources. With this bill, I fear that it would simply put a do not touch label on an enormous area of this state. And if indeed the legislature is attempting to allow for the construction of more housing, this is absolutely working at cross purposes with that goal. And for those purposes and many others that I will save you at the moment, I will be opposing this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Representative. Are there further questions or comments on this bill? All right. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
This is a roll call vote on House Bill number 7174, LCO number 6802 to JFS to the floor. Senator Lopes,
Yes.
Representative Parker,
Yes.
Senator Hockedal,
Senator Hockenell votes yes.
Senator Harding, Representative Callahan,
No?
Representative Anderson,
No.
Representative Arzeno,
Arseno, yes.
Representative Chafee,
Rep. Chafee votes yes.
Senator Cohen,
Yes.
Representative D'Amico,
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Dillon, Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky,
No.
Representative Gresco,
Yes.
Representative Gucker,
Representative Gucker votes yes.
Representative Horn,
Horn votes yes.
Representative Horn, could you say one more time? I didn't
Sure.
understand.
Representative Horn votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Jacobson, Representative Jensen,
No?
Representative Johnson, Representative Leeper, Senator Marr, Representative Mashinsky, Representative O'Day, Representative Piscopo,
Piscopo, no?
Representative Paletta, Representative Reddington Hughes,
No.
Representative Reyes, Representative Ryan, Representative Smith,
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon,
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart, Representative Steinberg, Representative Sweet,
Yes.
and Representative Veach.
Beach votes no.
Mr. Clerk, Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Yes, thank you very much. And
Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk, I apologize.
Representative Dillon,
Representative Dillon votes yes.
thank you.
Thank you, folks. Moving on to item 10 on our agenda. This is HB 6263, an act concerning the use and purchase of gas-powered handheld or backpack leaf blowers by state agencies. We're considering here LCO 6801. Thank you, Brad. LCO 6801, and I will entertain a motion to JFS to the floor. So moved by Senator Lopes, seconded by Representative Shannon. Thank you. Other questions or comments on this bill?
Sensible, correct? Do you want me to talk first, or do you want me to ask questions? Apologize for the confusion on this bill. I understand the original language kind of misled what my intentions were, what some of the other intentions were. But regardless, this current JFS language, to be very clear, does not affect the common resident of Connecticut. It only pertains to state agencies, and that's it. So it would, in 2027, it would say that state agencies, when the current life of their gas-powered blowers, weed whackers, whatever, died, they would then have to buy electrically sourced small lawn equipment. And then in 2029, only, again, for state agencies with their subcontractors. The example I use is the LB complex here. We have a subcontractor come in, take care of the grounds. As of 2029, our bidding should be for companies that use electrically powered weed whackers, blowers, et cetera, et cetera. It does not affect Rep Callahan and Rep Dubitsky and their backpack blowers, or Rep Rojas, or anyone else, or myself actually. So it is only for use on state property by state agencies, 2027, and then subcontractors 2029. Any questions? Yes. No, Rep Callahan.
Thank you, Senator Lopes. And I understand you took out the private use part, but when the state is reaching out for bids for contracts, that's going to affect anyone who wants to do business with the state, correct?
That is correct, sir.
So we heard a lot of testimony on this bill during the public hearing and on both sides. So what's this bill looking to accomplish? What's going to be the positive effect of this bill?
You raised a good point earlier that, if the belief is that electrically powered handheld equipment is better than gas powered equipment. And to be honest, I mean, I use that, I professionally, I do that during the day, and I've used both, and it is better. It's cheaper, it's quieter, it's more dependable. You don't have to have it tuned up. The battery goes bad, you buy another battery, as opposed to bringing it into a shop for an expensive tune-up. On a lot of levels, from a small business owner's perspective, it is a better product. And you accurately pointed out that if it's better, aren't we naturally moving in that direction, and why do we need to intervene? It is a good point. It's a valid point. The takeaway and the purpose of this legislation is sometimes the state leads by example, and we encourage industry to move in certain directions or try to give them a bellwether for what the future will entail. So by assigning it to something we control, which is state property, we're showing the industry, showing the state residents that this is an alternative. It works, and it is the way of the future, and it is an encouragement to move in the right direction, more than a mandate or trying to force people to do something. So I thought it was a good common ground.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I still am puzzled, because in part of the debate and the back and forth during the public hearing, we talked about, seemed that a large part of people's concerns that were in favor of this was the noise. Is that part of the reason this is being done?
Absolutely. I want to look past some of the objections and the hyperbole that revolved around this, but the vast majority of the objections to this equipment, especially with backpack blowers, is the noise, the volume. They are exceptionally loud, and they're used more than just the leaf season. In certain communities, they're used year round, and I think that's the basis of the objection.
Well, and in that regard, Mr. Chair, I would ask why the state is getting involved in local municipal issues like noise ordinances. Are we going to start, anytime someone's got a problem with something that's loud in their community, they're going to come to us and want a bill? They should be going to their municipalities and asking for a hearing like we've had in my town because of loud boats on the lake, things like that. I don't understand why we're getting involved in that portion if that's one of the reasons for the bill.
That's a great question. Although noise is, I think, the primary driving reason, there are secondary reasons, emissions, environmental concerns, and that is why we were getting involved, because even though it's the primary reason for noise, from my perspective, there's also an environmental concern, and that's why we're getting involved.
I appreciate that. I just think it's a bad idea. A couple of years ago, if it was last year, the year before, we passed a bill to require state vehicles to go to electric, and that's been minimal. It's just not happening. So I just think that if the state is going to lead by example, you think they'd already be leading by example because they're a superior product that works better and is cheaper and lasts longer, things like that. So I would ask DAS why they haven't been doing it already, because if it's so much better. But I think that if these products are so much better, the free market will dictate that. I certainly will go and buy an electric blower if they're better and they're more economical. At this point, they're just simply not. And I don't think it's going to change our air quality in Connecticut at all. I mean, some of the testimony was outrageous that, it's harming children and things like that. Blowers blow things around. So whether it's gas or electric, it's going to throw particles into the air, things like that. So I just think the state getting involved in dictating what people buy is a huge mistake. And I strongly object to this bill, and I'm a no.
I think you make a strong, valid argument. Just we agree to disagree on that point. Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that I that really struck me about the public hearing testimony is we had people come in, some of whom claimed to be experts, and they flatly refused to acknowledge that there are two different types of gasoline-powered blowers. There are two-stroke and four-stroke, and they are very different. The two-stroke are the ones that most of the people complain about. They're the ones that that have more emissions. They're louder. However, they are lighter and cheaper. So when asked, I asked several of the people testifying, and they either didn't know or wouldn't acknowledge that there is a difference. And the difference is considerable. If you have a four-stroke gas-powered blower, it produces very little emissions compared to a two-stroke. Now, why do we ignore that? Because it's convenient. It's convenient if you want to demand everybody go electric. It's convenient to just ignore the fact that there is a gas-powered alternative that is significantly less polluting and a lot quieter than a standard two-stroke. The four-strokes are out there. A lot of people use them, but the people who are testifying simply either didn't know or refused to acknowledge that there is a difference. And I don't think that we should do that. We should look into this a little more closely, and we should acknowledge that if there is a problem with two-stroke engines, there's no reason to essentially ban the four-strokes. And that goes for the state, for municipalities, and for private individuals and private companies. So I don't think that forcing this on the state is going to be beneficial. And we've all seen this before. It starts with one group, and then the next year there's another bill to extend it to another group, and sooner or later it's statewide. So I think there are alternatives out there that are better and give options to the people who use these. And I don't think that we should be mandating that that even the state use the most expensive alternative when there are other alternatives out there. Thank you.
I'll speak to Rep. Dubinsky. Your comments actually, thank you. They do, in my eyes, prove why my answer to Rep. Callahan of why the state would get involved in this. The reason, you're right, two-stroke engines are cheaper, they're very powerful, and they're horribly emitting. I mean, just absolutely horrible. And the reason the industry has moved away from two-stroke engines to four-stroke engines is California passed, their CARB emissions rules for emissions on small engines. That movement, and then you go out to buy an engine right now, and you'll see it. You go to buy your four-stroke engine on a blower or a snow blower, and you'll see that it says California CARB compliant, because that legislation in California pushed the industry to start making more efficient, better running, and less emitting small engines. And as we know, we always heard the anecdotal stuff. I don't know how accurate it is that a leaf blower, a two-stroke leaf blower, emits more emissions in 20 minutes than a Ford F-150 truck does driving all the way to Texas, because it's a cleaner engine, it's got catalytic converters, it's got emissions controls. All those things are things that are done because legislatures, whether it be federal or state or local, have pushed industry to say, hey, you can do better. And then the industry does move in that direction. So in this case, yeah, we should move away from two-stroke motors, go to four-stroke engines, and even for small engines, putting some sort of emission regulations on the four-strokes, because even though they are better than two-strokes, they could be even better. They have no emissions controls on them. So that is the proof of why we need to do sometimes what we're doing to push industry to make our environment a better place to be. Any other questions, Rep. Arzano?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify some issues on 6263, HB 6263, on the public hearing results, I was looking at the numbers, 23 residents oppose it, 21 landscaper or land maintenance companies oppose it, and 198 residents or nonprofit support it. Regarding municipalities, there are municipalities that without any mandate already are taking actions, and examples are Westport and Greenwich, my town. There we have a survey after limiting the use of gas leaf blowers, and 90% wanted action taken against the use of gas leaf blowers. And when the limitation in the use of leaf blowers came to the local legislative body, the RTM, 84% of the Greenwich RTM, 230 members, voted for a Greenwich gas power leaf blowers ordinance. So I think that we are moving on the right direction. I think that this bill is a step forward, moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions in the room?
Yes.
Rep Brenington Hughes, then Rep Dillon, and then we'll go online.
I would just like to make a comment on following up on the previous representative that I think that's a good illustration of where towns, have their own autonomy and that they can go forward in the directions that they feel appropriate. I think forcing this as a one size fits all on every single town across the state of Connecticut is a big mistake. Thanks.
Thank you. Rep Dillon?
Thank you. I'm sorry I was unable to connect earlier. There's some very strong sentiment in my district in support of a total ban. And so I'm supporting this language because I believe it represents a sincere effort to address the issue. But if you live in certain areas, and I understand some people think the remedy is, oh, just do it in your town. Well, air does unfortunately drift. The person who testified, who I believe it sounded like someone was questioning whether they were really an expert, but I know him actually, is a professor at the medical school, who is the chief of the pulmonary section and is actually fairly well versed in the issue of particulate matter, which I studied myself in public health school. So I really, I think for many of us, even though this appears either too little or some threatening camel's nose under the tent, if we believed in air quality and in reducing asthma rates among children, then every single tactic that we adapt is useful. So even though this language may disappoint many of the people who have spoken to me very passionately on this, I'm going to support it because I think it's a good faith effort that if the state's going to say, well, towns can do it, we should do it too.
Thank you. Senator Cohen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to make a comment. I'll be supporting this out of committee today. We've been seeing this bill proposal, not in this format, for a long time. And even when I chaired this committee 7 years ago, when I first came in, we received a proposal on this. What some people don't know is that prior to being bagel shop owners, my husband and I owned a landscaping business. And so for a long time, despite incredibly compelling evidence that the greenhouse gas emissions emitted by these leaf blowers were significant, I just didn't think the market was there. And so for a long time, I was saying, no, we're just not ready for this. We're just not ready for this. And I think times have changed. Representative Parker and I have a landscape company in our district that for years has been using electric equipment. They're one of the foremost landscape companies, very successful in our district. And so I've been watching them do this and successfully implementing all electric equipment. and seeing folks gradually, the market driving them to gradually make choices, greener choices. And this bill before us doesn't even go that far as to require all of these landscaping firms or even residential use to be electric, but instead only contemplates state agencies. And I heard some comments today about they're much more expensive. It's just simply not true. So I would encourage members, I've been watching this for a long time. I would encourage members to get online. Husqvarna, which is a leading manufacturer, they have now battery powered blowers. Ego's another big commercial electric equipment manufacturer. And in order to make them even more prevalent in the marketplace, we need to begin to make these switches. So grateful for the bill before us today, and I will be a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. I'm going to go online. Representative Gucker.
Good morning, because it's still morning, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to touch base on this. This is probably one of the individuals who understands the operationals of a two-stroke motor and its polluting qualities as opposed to a four-stroke motor, and I won't bore you with the science in that. I'm happy to see the changes in this language because before I honestly had I had concerns as far as residential individuals and others being forced to this. I also do know, as the good senator just stated, places like Steel and others are pushing people to go to battery operated. I just don't think that all of us are there yet. So as someone who understands the polluting nature of a two-stroke engine, and understands the bigger thing that I heard during testimony was noise. The answer may be battery packed, but I don't think at this point we are all there yet. But I will support this coming out of committee now that we've changed it to where the state agencies will go to this, because let's be honest, two-stroke engines don't last forever, and I'm sure our state individuals burn through these pretty quickly. So they can make that gradual change over to battery, unlike the average homeowner who may have a two-stroke engine or a battery or have a backpack blower for 5 or 6 years. So I will support this out of committee. I look forward to seeing what the final bill would be. But again, I do understand more than probably anybody in the room the effects of a two-stroke engine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to congratulate the chairs. This is a start. I like this better than the bill that we had before us before. A study would not have advanced the ball in an appropriate manner. And by focusing on state agencies, this is very similar to other bills this legislature has passed. I recall the lead by example legislation in House Bill 1180, which obliged state buildings to find ways to be more energy efficient, a very successful program that has saved the state many millions of dollars. So this is a good place to start to show that it can be done. I will say the technology continues to improve year to year. When Westport passed an ordinance just a couple of years ago, it was not as advanced as it is today. I do believe technology will drive decision making, but this is also being part about being a good neighbor, that we should be very sensitive to what we do on our property, its impact on other properties around us. I think ultimately we will come up with, if not a ban, some significant limits on the use of gas-powered blowers. That's what Westport has done. I understand Greenwich has done something similar. Yes, Representative Callahan, we often start at the local level. We did that with banning plastic bags, and then the state finally got with the program and banned them statewide. It'd be good if the state, particularly because there are health implications here, didn't wait until there was a critical mass of municipalities. We should be doing this sooner than later. This is what we call progress. So I really hope that we not only pass this legislation this year, that we take up a similar bill next year that moves the ball even further. And I want to thank the chairs for their willingness to be flexible on the bill this year as we continue to move to where the technology is going. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Callahan. Senator Harding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions through you. There were some questions prior to today's meeting regarding the language in this JFS, and
it was my understanding that there may have been municipal governments that were involved. Is that the case any longer, or is that stripped out? Are municipal governments required to
No,
follow the same standards?
just state.
And in terms of, start and encouragement is the words that I think I heard Representative Steinberg use. I think I've also heard the good chair use that language as well. So when the word start, this is a good start. This is an encouragement. We all saw the original bill. So is it fair to say that this is the beginning of legislation moving towards what is going to be an eventual ban through you?
That was a good question. I am not wedded to any certainty of the future, but I would say that there are members of the legislature who are very interested in a total ban. And I imagine they will pursue that.
And so through you, Mr. Chair, so when legislators are saying that this is a start, I just want to make it clear, this is a start towards a total ban on these leaf blowers, which was the original language of the bill, correct?
Just to maintain, there are quite a few members of the legislature who want very strongly in their districts want a total ban. Yes,
That was the original bill that was before.
that was in the original bill, but that was not my intent, but we don't need to go there.
Okay, that was not your intent, but that was the original bill that is before us today. Now we've JFS'd it. And then when you hear language like start and encouragement, it leads me to believe just basic logic that this is the start of a movement towards a ban.
I'm just going to maintain back to my original answer. I can't say which direction we're going to go in, but I do say there is the intent by many that they want a total ban.
Yeah, I think their language, and what they're using speaks for itself. I would argue. Thank you. In terms of, encouragement is a language that you use, but there are mandates in this. Is that correct through you?
Yep, that is correct, sir.
So what mandates are those?
The mandate is 2027. State agencies, when they purchase new lawn equipment, when their current lawn equipment reaches the end of its useful life, as of 2027, they must buy electrically powered small landscaping equipment.
And who does this impact? This impacts, you said, some contractors?
No contractors. State agencies only doing work on state properties with state employees, 2027.
Okay, what about companies that are contracted to work with the state of Connecticut?
When bids go out in 2029, by DAS, I assume, the bid should be written in a manner to encourage companies bidding to use electrical equipment.
So when you say encourage, does that mean mandate? Because that's how you would
Yeah,
write that in the RFP. So is it fair to say that they're going to mandate that these companies?
For certain equipment, yeah, it's a tough answer to answer one way or the other, because obviously there's certain things that can't be done with electrical equipment. The 16-foot wide mowers that do the DOT building in Newington, I don't think there's an electric option for that. So it would be for equipment. After in 2027, once the state has a couple years of experience of using electrical equipment, seeing what works, what doesn't work, then in 2029, I believe that would give them the time to construct a bid document that would really specify by the bidders what equipment had to be electric and what equipment could still be gasoline.
So the state of Connecticut is going to start telling landscaping businesses what equipment they can and can't use on state property.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say only when they're bidding on state contracts for state properties.
Right. So again, the same question through you, Mr. Chair. The state of Connecticut is going to start telling landscapers what equipment they can and can't use when bidding on state contracts.
When narrowed down to bidding on state contracts for state property.
What about how would this impact, agriculture? So let's say if would this impact any grants and the like? So would this allow or give the latitude potentially to the state of Connecticut for those receiving grants, whether it be agricultural community, et cetera, to start using certain equipment, being forced to use equipment?
I don't see how, but I can't, I haven't thought through that.
These are things that I think we want to think through, because we're talking about farming communities that are in my district. I know for a fact, I think in all of our districts, and we're voting on something today that would have a significant impact on them. It's kind of late to think through these things. We would like, to have answers. I do understand you're saying that you don't see that being the case, but whenever we enact language legislatively that dictates what type of equipment you can and can't use, you always start to wonder how that relates to particular grants and whether or not the legislation then gives the state of Connecticut some of that latitude to potentially implement the same exact requirements on those receiving certain grants. That certainly would be a concern of mine. I do appreciate that you don't believe it to be an issue in the way the legislation is written, but that should be a concern moving forward to make sure that is actually, absolutely explicit in the language moving forward. I think through you, Mr. Chair, from what I understood, I heard a lot of discussion about the environmental impact, which I greatly respect and appreciate. But I think that originally you were saying that this is primarily due to noise for you.
I believe the largest driving force is the noise. That is what is pushing the legislation, but it is only one of many factors that is pushing the legislation.
Do we have any idea what states have banned this? Have banned these?
Not off the top of my head, no.
So we don't know of any other state that has done this?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. Do we have any idea the cost differential between what it would cost a landscaping company to purchase to go all electric like we're mandating in the future here?
That is an incredibly interesting and complex question. There is the thought that the purchasing is more expensive, the initial costs, which is balanced out by lower operating costs and long-term maintenance costs. We do know that many private landscaping companies have gone all electric successfully, and they essentially said that there's a slightly higher initial cost, but those costs are moving around. Electric equipment is getting cheaper and cheaper, but then it's balanced out by much less expensive operating and maintenance costs.
I always grow speculative when we say that this is a better option, and yet we're government mandating that a private citizen or private company do it. I think that as other people that have spoken today have elaborated, probably far more articulate than I, that again, if it's going to cost less in the long run, if it's a better option in terms of machinery and infrastructure in the long run, or even initially, the private market would dictate that. The fact that we have to mandate it as a state automatically makes me question whether or not that's accurate. I think the facts are the facts, that I don't think anyone here could argue that it's going to cost more, at least on the front end, significantly more in some cases, to force companies to purchase this type of equipment. I mean, I think that otherwise they would just be doing it if it were the costs were the same. I think we've seen towns do it, and I think the town by town option is something that some proponents of this bill have discussed, and I think it's fair to allow a community to decide as opposed to the state of Connecticut simply mandating it. I understand that there was not a commitment from the chair or anyone else on this particular bill with the JFS language in front of us here today that this is a start towards a ban. But let's be frank. We had a bill that was presented to us today that, if not for the JFS language in front of us, was a complete ban on these machinery or this machinery. And then we had legislators talking about how they support the bill because they believe it's a start. What else would it be a start towards? And so this is a start towards a ban. For that reason alone, I would be voting no and have extreme speculation about whether or not I could support such a measure moving forward. I also, want to point out that when the state of Connecticut is now mandating that certain companies be forced to purchase this more expensive equipment, it's one thing for an environmental initiative to be doing that, but when we were saying that the primary purpose for this is noise, I really question whether or not we're making the right decision in mandating this costlier expense on companies when the primary concern is noise. So with that said, I will be voting no on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Callahan.
Thank you for recognizing me second time, and I'll be brief. And I appreciate all the comments from my colleagues. And I understand this is for state agencies, but before I came here, I did work for judicial. And it used to drive me crazy when legislature sent down mandates for us that didn't work. I reached out to DOT employees that work in my district and talked to them about this. They were adamantly against it. And they they're far more expensive. The backpack blowers, for instance, are 4 times more expensive. The battery alone is over $1,000. So I understand that the market's going there. Great, let's let the market go there. And I was very much against an EV mandate, but if you want to buy an EV, go and buy one. But let's stay out of it. If state agencies maybe do a pilot, see if it works, because as with mandating all the state agencies drive electric cars, that's not working because they're not doing it for a reason. So why not let's start small, do a pilot, see what works, and if it works, great. Then if you want to expand it, fine. But as it stands now, the state getting involved in the free market and mandating people use something that's 4 to 5 times more expensive is not where I want to go. And I appreciate the opportunity for another comment.
Thank you. Any other comments? Representative Dillon, second time.
Thank you for the second time, Mr. Chairman. I didn't plan to speak for a second time, but I wanted to make clear, given some of the other remarks, that my own comments should not be misconstrued or used elsewhere. And that is, I believe this bill is an important start to reducing particulate matter and reducing the incidence of asthma in children. Whether or not it's a ban, there are people in my district who want a ban. I'm sure that once something comes forward locally, there will be people who oppose it. I'm almost indifferent. What I'm passionate about is reducing the particulate matter and protecting the health of children. That is what I care about, and that this is a very modest strategy here. Very modest. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any further comments? Being none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
This is a roll call vote for House Bill 6263, LCO number 6801 to JFS to the floor. Senator Lopes.
Yes.
Representative Parker.
Yes.
Senator Hockedal.
Senator Hockedal votes yes.
Senator Harding. Representative Callahan.
No.
Representative Anderson.
No.
Representative Arzeno.
Arseno, yes.
Representative Chafee.
Rep. Chafee votes yes.
Senator Cohen.
Yes.
Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Dillon.
Representative Dillon votes yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
No.
Representative Gresco. Representative Gucker.
Gucker votes yes.
Sorry, Representative, one more time with your camera on, please.
Sorry, Representative Gucker votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Horn. Representative Jacobson. Representative Jensen.
No.
Representative Johnson. Representative Leeper. Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky.
Mashinsky, yes.
Representative O'Day.
O'Day, no.
Representative Piscopo.
Piscopo, no.
Representative Paletta. Representative Reddington Hughes.
Reddington Hughes, no.
Representative Reyes.
Representative Reyes in the affirmative.
Representative Ryan.
Representative Ryan says yes. When
Thank you.
Representative Reyes leaves the buttons alone.
Representative Smith.
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon.
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Representative Sweet.
Yes.
And Representative Veach.
Representative Veach votes no.
That completes the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Senator Lopes, for your work on that. Next up is number 11, which is HB 6249, an act limiting appeals under the Connecticut Environmental Protection Act. We're considering LCO 6800. I'll entertain a motion to JFS to the floor. So moved by Senator Lopes. And seconded by Representative Doucette. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this bill? I think we'll start with Rep. Callahan, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This bill wants to limit appeals. So if I'm in my town and there's a construction project, whether some sort of housing, and it's within it's 101 feet from my house, this would limit my ability to comment or appeal. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Representative Callahan. The S language we're contemplating actually changes that formulation from the underlying bill, so that is no longer the case.
Thank you for clarifying. And I apologize because sometimes this S language comes very late. So, but it does limit some entities from commenting and appealing, correct?
Thank you for the question. The key piece of the bill for me is that the court shall determine whether the intervener has made a prima facie showing as soon as is practicable. Prima facie. Thank you, Attorney Harding. I studied Latin in high school. It's prima facie. Within and not more than 30 days after the filing of such a request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think limiting the ability of people to comment on developments in their town is again another attempt to pull local control away from our residents, and I just have a problem with that. So I appreciate the opportunity to question you.
Understood, Rep. Callahan. Thank you for the comments. Are there other questions or comments? Representative Mashinsky.
First, I want to say I greatly respect the Majority Leader's efforts to improve affordable housing in Connecticut. I'm 100% with him on this, and I'm on a housing task force in my own town to bring more affordable housing to Wallingford. However, what this bill does is weaken a very important law that we've had for a number of decades, SEPA, and it's used primarily, when you review the cases, it's used primarily by one group of upper middle income landowners to block a new group of upper middle income landowners. For example, one of the more recent cases was a luxury golf course with condos. This is not affordable housing, and it's not being used to block affordable housing in real life. It's being used by one group of people who have a view of the beach, and then there's another group wants to come in and build on the sand dunes, and the first group sues the second group, and that it becomes a SEPA case. So I don't think this really helps affordable housing. And what it does do, according to Save the Sound, is you have to establish that you're going to win your case in a mini trial before your appeal. And when we had the public hearing, there were 113 people in opposition to the idea and only 2 in support. The major environmental groups and environmental leaders opposed the bill because they trust SEPA to help us review major environmental impacts. A few other cases I could think of, in an airport expansion, sometimes SEPA comes up. In a major development that impacts wetlands, sometimes SEPA comes up, but it really doesn't get used for affordable housing. And putting this bill out there and saying, well, now we're going to have affordable housing, I think is an error, and not based on history in Connecticut. So I'm loath to take this law down for what is believed to be an advantage for affordable housing, but really isn't. It helps wealthier housing get built faster, but it doesn't really help affordable. So I'm going to be a no on this. Respectfully, I do respect my Majority Leader, and I will help him any other way I can, but I can't take apart SEPA.
Thank you for your comments, Representative. As was just made abundantly clear, I'm no attorney, but I'll give 2 thoughts in response to that. First of all, just to be clear, the bill does not, and I also want to say I greatly respect your work on this, Rep. Mashinsky, and your expertise here. And so as I'm kind of working my way through this and trying to understand as well, I just want to raise up the point for everybody. The bill does not articulate affordable versus any other kind of housing. It's any residential And so I believe the intent here is not in a narrow focus, but really thinking about residential housing overall, not just an affordable housing bill. And the second piece I'd say is my understanding, at least what gets me willing to vote yes to move this forward, is that the intention here is not to put what does seem like a big burden to say you have to prove that you're going to win your case up front. The language in here says they have to make the showing that an unreasonable pollution is reasonably likely to occur. Now, I'm sure all the good attorneys will argue reasonability one way or the other, but I think the intention there is to have a little bit more good faith coming in at the beginning of the process, that there's actually something going on and that you can have a discussion about it. Not to say that it's going to necessarily win one or the other. That doesn't seem like something that would be that reasonable to me. So just a couple comments on that, but I appreciate what you shared, Rep. Mashinsky. I believe we're going to go to Senator Harding. We'll come to Rep. D'Amico, and I see some hands online too, so we'll keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say that Representative Mishisky is someone I have great respect for, and unfortunately, her and I don't see eye to eye a lot. And in the cases where I do see eye to eye with her, because of my deep respect for how smart she is on these issues, I'm compelled to speak because I think she's exactly correct. One of the things that I would like to understand through you, Mr. Chair, is there's no other limitations to any other appeals on these matters. Is that correct? Now, with this, the only thing we're doing through this particular legislation is limiting environmental appeals through you.
That's my understanding.
So we're the Environment Committee. We talk about empowering individuals in our communities every single day to advocate for their environmental and public health rights. And we're voting for a bill today in which we're limiting only environmental concerns related to projects being developed near people's or where they live. Through you, Mr. Chair, is that correct?
I appreciate your question, Senator. I think we're only looking at the environmental issues because we are the Environmental Committee. I'd imagine there's other work happening from the Majority Leader and others that will consider other areas of the law and our legislation.
So through you, Mr. Chair, what other bills are currently in being proposed by the Majority Leader that limits litigation in these matters through you?
Cannot speak to those.
Is it because there's no other bill that exists through you?
I am not aware.
Well, I would argue that it's pretty obvious that this is the only bill, and that if there were another bill that limited other appeals and other aspects of law, including environmental issues, it would eventually come before us, or it would strictly be before us. But what we have in front of us here right now limits only environmental appeals. So if someone has an environmental concern, this committee today, by voting for this particular bill, is limiting their personal right and ability to present their concerns to a court. I don't know how you could possibly say that you are an environmental advocate and now you're voting today to limit someone's ability to present their environmental concerns related to a project that is close to where they reside. It is antithetical to that theory. It just is. I don't see how you could see it any other way. And so out of the bills that we're going to be voting on, I mean, I know there are environmental advocates that are here today. I certainly hope this is on their scorecards, regardless of who may be proposing this particular bill, because I look at this as a very anti-environment bill when you're only limiting environmental appeals and nothing else. What does that say about our priorities? That the environmental concerns are less important than other concerns that get raised? So, I mean, through you, Mr. Chair, understanding the reasoning behind the bill as you may understand it, do you understand why it's only related to environmental bills through you?
Why is it only related to the environmental bills?
Excuse me, I apologize, environmental concerns, appeals.
I believe because that's the subject matter that this committee is positioned to consider.
Right, but through you, Mr. Chair, this could have been presented the bill could have been proposed for any particular appeal? Is there a reason why it's only environmental? I understand that it's before us, and you're saying that that's the only reason it may be before us.
I think we're on the same page. It's
But
kind of
yeah, but
circular
in
there.
terms of
Yeah.
the bill itself, why are we only restricting environmental appeals? What about environmental appeals, as you may understand it, should be restricted here through you?
I would say, Senator, what we're talking about here is some of what you shared about limiting, should be unlimited. I would disagree with some of the characterization of what this bill is contemplating, or at least my understanding of it, again, as not the person that introduced this bill and is the primary force behind it. As I understand it, there already is a restriction on environmental, the timeline for this from 120 days. We're considering bringing that down to 30 days. Maybe 30 days isn't the perfect right answer. We're going to have plenty of time after this bill gets out of committee to keep the discussion going. So I wouldn't agree with the characterization that we're taking something that's unlimited and now severely limiting it. We're trying to strike that balance to say, of course, if there are projects that are happening that are going to have a significant environmental, actually, let me just read the language, an unreasonable pollution, then they should be able to, those folks should make that known and the court should have to respond to those. And those projects shouldn't go forward. This bill is still allowing that to happen. In fact, it's my understanding that the folks, and may could be people that are following along today that are in a position to make those cases, are actually showing up and at prima facie, damn it, prima facie, thank you, moment, are coming in and saying, here's the evidence, this is why. And the judge was like, of course, that's good evidence. Let's have this, let's let this play out. It's not trying to throw that off. I think what this, my understanding is that this is trying to limit what might otherwise be sort of frivolous attempts to try to slow down the process when there's not actually a meaningful environmental threat. And so that's, I forgot what your initial question was, Senator, but that's my response to what you're sharing. I hope you understand. Thank you. Thank you.
But again, I think my point still remains that we're limiting it from 120 days to 30. Are we limiting any other, is there any other reasons for appealing that is being limited through you or is already limited?
Not in this bill and not before this committee.
And so that's what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, it seems like we're saying that environmental concerns is less of a concern than many other concerns that can be appealed. And I would argue that how I understand the law, and I'm not an appellate attorney, but or an attorney that does this type of work, but I would as I would understand it, the other appeals would be able to go through the regular legislative process. By essentially voting for this, we're saying we're limiting the amount of time you can appeal for environmental related matters. And not only that, we're limiting what cases even get brought before a judge. That everything else you could simply appeal by right. We're saying here, no, you can't appeal by right. You have to even show a judge you have a prima facie case before you even get to a full hearing on this. And as far as I know, there's no other matter that you can appeal that has those type of restrictions. So what are we saying about environmental related issues, that they're less important? Because everything else, as far as I understand, unless I get corrected otherwise, does not have any of these limitations. We're only putting these limitations on environmental related issues. So if you vote for this, I would argue you're saying that you think that environmental cases are, I would argue, less important or need to have a higher standard before you can even hear it get in front of a judge. And I don't know about you. I mean, you mentioned fraudulent cases. I mean, a lot of the cases that are getting brought, they are expensive, they are complex, and if it's getting to a judge and you're filing an appeal properly procedurally, I would argue that the far majority of those are not frivolous cases, if not all of them. And so, who are we really restricting here? I guess it's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that, Mr. Chair. But I guess I'm just saying rhetorically, what does that say about what we believe in priorities in terms of our due process system as it relates to somebody having an environmental concern about a development near them? Again, we're the Environment Committee. If you believe that environmental advocacy is a huge aspect of what we should stand for, I respect that argument. but I don't know how you could possibly then vote for this particular bill that scrutinizes only environmental appeals and nothing else. So for that reason, I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Senator. Representative Reddington Hughes, please.
I just have a couple questions. I just wanted to know the way that this is written and interpreted. Is this shortening the amount of time that someone who is knowledgeable of what is actually going to go forward, or is it that they have to, that this is basically from the time that this project starts, whether or not they know about it or not? So is it incumbent upon the resident to already know what is going on, and the time clock starts there? Or are they notified? Or, I'm just curious.
Can you restate your question, Representative?
If something is going on and it's a residential community, and there is no knowledge base of this for the neighbor that is being affected, and they find out, and it might be 28 days into the project going forward, does their time clock start after the time that they're notified, or does their time clock start when the project started?
I'm looking at line 5 in the S language, which references the not more than 30 days after the filing of such a request. And that request is referencing the proceeding for a residential building permit application at the request of any party to such judicial review. So I read 30 days there.
Okay, so it would be incumbent upon the resident to somehow cull through the newspapers and find out that this was actually put forward. They're not necessarily notified of this.
That's actually a great question, and I don't believe the bill contemplates that one way or the other, and that the current process does, tell me if I'm wrong, anybody else, notify everyone automatically. Whatever the process is that already exists for around people knowing that these issues are happening and they want to speak on it. The bill is not changing that one way or the other. It's continuing with the same process.
Just one other question.
Please.
Because sometimes just having somebody be right next door to something that is occurring doesn't mean that somebody who is 2 streets away from them is not going to be affected. So the 2 streets away from them, under common laws, I don't believe that those people need to be notified. I'm just curious as to whether when something happens that will affect them, are they under the same umbrella as the folks that were notified?
I don't believe this bill contemplates a change in any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. I see Representative, all these questions on this side too. Let's start here and work our way down. Representative Shannon, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to just say that the original bill I was not really in favor of, just because of all the vocalized opposition during our public hearing. And I don't really believe that we should be limiting anyone for these SEPA appeals. But however, the substitute language, I believe, does demonstrate that the proponents of this bill are into having discussions with our advocates and really continuing this conversation. And I don't want that to end today. So I will be in support of the language and advancing it from our committee so we can continue those discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate your comments. Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support this today out of committee. I think this is an important conversation to have. As to the previous discussion, I think what's unique about this, obviously, it is SEPA. It's 22A19. It's different than a Title VIII zoning appeal. In terms of agreement and standing in those appeals, there is very specific notice requirements. We do not have that in SEPA. It's extremely broad. But more importantly, what we're talking about today in this S language does not even touch on that. I mean, personally, I think the question of standing in agreement is one that we should have with respect to SEPA, because there are cases with respect to affordable housing and, frankly, other types of developments. I mentioned some of my colleagues in Manchester. We had a 10-year battle between 2 malls in neighboring towns or that was a SEPA appeal and stretched on forever. And those were just two commercial enterprises using SEPA to compete with each other, essentially. So we do see that type. But more importantly, I think what we're talking about here in the S language is just talking about a prima facie, that's how we pronounce it in Manchester, I guess, a finding. Now, as a practical matter, I'm not a litigator. I'm a transactional attorney, so I'm not sure how that will play out. I would think that a judge would be hard-pressed not to find a prima facie showing in any legitimate, reasonable appeal. So I don't think this is going to have a significant effect. I think the S language softens it considerably, but I think it's an important conversation to have, and I'm going to be supporting it out of committee today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Doucette. I appreciate that. On down the line to Rep. D'Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, it certainly is an auspicious day in the Environment Committee when the ranking members and Representative Mashinsky and I all seem to agree on a particular bill, and perhaps for slightly different reasons. But I have to join my colleagues in voicing my displeasure with this bill, even with the substitute language that's in front of us. And like everybody else, I really respect the House Majority Leader's effort to try to improve the housing situation here in the state of Connecticut, and he has really made a good effort to move in that direction. However, I don't believe that the language that we're looking at today in LCO 6800 is the benign effort that many people seem to think that it is. I am not an attorney, as all of you are quite well aware by now, but I am smart enough to listen to attorneys. And the attorneys that I talk to about this are telling me that this prima facie showing that the interveners would have to engage in would require them to present their full case in front of a judge before the appeal process has even begun. They're telling me they have to present their full case. So this is not just a benign effort to say, well, you have to show a reasonable cause why this is going to harm the environment, or show probable cause why this is going to harm the environment. This is going to be a much more formal and much more involved process, which puts the interveners at a disadvantage from what is currently the law. So I really appreciate the fact that the majority leader is trying to get people to go along with his efforts. However, this is not the benign fix to the original bill that many people think that it is. And for that reason, I'm going to have to oppose this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Understood. I appreciate that, Rep. D'Amico. We're going to keep going to questioning, I know, and comments. I know a number of people want to speak as well. I will just take a second also to hopefully to assure and assuage. As you hear many times from people on both sides of this committee, we understand where we're at in this process, and that bills that come before us at this moment are often still big works in progress. I think there's a couple bills on this very agenda that we'll say that about. And so out of respect and good faith and goodwill to continue that process moving forward, I would ask for folks that have detailed questions that maybe we're not getting all the answers to now to know that I would love to engage in detailed responses to those with people that are working on this bill. As has been mentioned, our majority leader has been working on this bill. I know has entertained a number of questions and meetings with folks and really tried to work on this policy, and that will continue. So just a reminder about where we are in the process. As again gets said often, a yes or a no vote today is not the same thing as what you would do if that bill or any version of it comes to the floor later on. We're merely at the committee stage wanting to move an important conversation forward that clearly a lot of people have a lot of questions on and want to be a part of the conversation, and we welcome you in it. So thank you for the comments. That's sort of just a general reminder of where we're at. I think Senator Cohen was up next, and we've got a few other hands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a couple of comments, because I think it's really important for me just to put out there why I'll be a yes today. I think when I initially saw this bill, dead set against it, I was very concerned about eroding SEPA in any way, shape, or form. I will say I've been really appreciative of the good minority leader of the House's majority leader. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. I was thinking of the Senate Minority Leader as I was saying that. The good Majority Leader's efforts here in terms of getting this to a better place. And I think it's important for all of us to understand that there's many crises going on in our state that impact us and that we have to develop well thought out policy for. And that includes an environmental crisis. And I believe, I've said this before, if we don't address our environmental needs, then there's nothing else worth addressing because that should come first and foremost. But we do have other crises like a public health crisis in many ways, an education crisis in many ways, and a housing crisis. And we talk about this all the time with respect to housing in the state of Connecticut. We simply do not have enough housing. And there, as somebody who sat on the Commission for Connecticut's Development and Future and chaired one of the subcommittees of that, it was very recognizable how multifaceted an issue housing development is in the state of Connecticut. And there's different components that need addressing. And this is one component that needs addressing. And so while I'm not completely sold on this language, I do want to move it out of committee today in an effort to have some balance in this in recognizing that we need to be mindful of our environment while also being mindful of the housing shortage we have in the state. I do not think it makes those who vote yes on this today a hypocrite when it comes to environment. In fact, I would say it's really somebody who might be trying to contemplate a balanced approach to the needs of the state of Connecticut. And so that's why I'll be a yes today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate your remarks, Senator. Thank you. In the room, we've got Representative Gresco, and then we'll go online to Rep. Steinberg and Chafee, and we'll keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say, as far as the Majority Leader is concerned, it's not lost on me anyway that he was willing to alter and compromise on the language. Not everybody cares for it, but the willingness to do it even before we get out of committee says a lot to me. So I would be a yes on this for today, and look forward to the conversation going forward. But one of the things that strikes me is that if an intervener had to establish a winning position in a case before they are allowed to intervene, as this language currently says, then I think it would only be fair for developers to have to jump over that high hurdle and have the same criteria. Maybe, hopefully, that could be something that we can look at going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Representative. Representative Steinberg.
First, I would like to lodge a protest that people online are treated as second-class citizens by this committee, but we'll take that up at a future point. I want to express sympathy for the desire to bring about change that would encourage more housing in the state. We are in the middle of a housing crisis. We're not alone. This is a national problem. And it's also true that sometimes the process of getting approved or permitted or through the whole process can be lengthy, time-consuming, inconsistent, and certainly expensive for those who are trying to move forward with developing properties. So that's why I have sympathy. There is a need to streamline where we can. I am extremely hesitant to streamline on the backs of our environmental responsibility. I view this potentially as a very dangerous precedent in a very opposite way as some of the others have spoken. This could be a further erosion of environmental protections that could be expanded over time. And it might not be simply regarding the housing. It could be related to any number of things. And I find that an alarming precedent. So my inclination would be to vote against this, but in deference to the Majority Leader, his demonstrated flexibility, I am going to sort of hold my nose and vote this out of committee. And if this bill should come to the floor, pretty much as is, I would be of no vote. But I am hopeful that the Majority Leader and the work he has done to date will continue, and that if a bill is brought forward for a vote on the floor, it will be somewhat improved from where we are today. So again, with great reservations, only to move this bill forward, as we often do in committee, I will vote in favor of it, but with the expectation that without further change, that this may be my last yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Rep. Steinberg. Representative Chafee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to align my comments with our colleagues. First, I'd like to thank the Majority Leader for his willingness to modify this language. It has softened it quite a bit, but like many other members of the committee, I'm also not an attorney. I am lucky to have some pretty knowledgeable land use attorneys in my district that I talk to quite often. And I did want to raise another issue that has not really been discussed yet. It's my understanding that currently under SEPA, an appeal, there are two remedies. One is filing a lawsuit for conduct that may cause environmental harm, which we have discussed quite a bit so far. The other is contesting an agency's decision-making. There is precedent that if a body does not follow the proper procedure, say they do not, the application does not include wetlands delineation data or soil testing data, that would also be grounds for a SEPA violation. And it appears to me, from what I understand this bill, under this language, it would completely remove that remedy for the intervener, since they're the only ones who have to comply by this 30-day period. In order for them to prove the agency did not follow the law, the agency needs to also produce the record when they go to court. So for that reason, I'll be voting no today to flag it. Again, I'm hoping that we can work on this further and make sure that we strike a appropriate balance between helping to develop more housing in the state, but also making sure that we preserve our environmental quality. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments, Representative. Next up, Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that our esteemed Senate ranking member used the word that I think is very important here. That word is priorities. This year, there has been this push, this unstoppable push to force housing into this state without regard to any other limitation we have in statute. It's like this bulldozer is just plowing through and eliminating all other priorities with regard to having well-organized towns that have housing in places where it should be, with appropriate parking, with appropriate services, with appropriate environmental limitations and ability to appeal. There does not appear to be any thought about how this massive push to empower developers is going to affect all of the other priorities that we have in this state. Environmental priorities are certainly one of those that we need to consider. And what this bill does is it enshrines more housing above all else. Now, I am everybody, well, a lot of people have been saying I'm not a lawyer or I'm not a litigator. Well, I am a lawyer and I am a litigator. And I can tell you, putting together a prima facie case of anything in 30 days is very often difficult, especially if you are an individual. You're living in your house and suddenly the guy next door starts building something that starts dumping all kinds of junk onto your property or into your water. It's going to probably take you a couple of weeks just to find an attorney. And then they've got to put together the facts, try to get the right documents, try to get the right evidence, try to get some experts maybe. 30 days is not easy for anything, and especially environmental cases. You know, putting together an environmental case requires a lot of work, a lot of documents, a lot of evidence, a lot of experts, and very often the state has to get involved. Just getting somebody to pick up the phone at DEEP could take you a month, much less getting somebody to come in and testify at a preliminary hearing. This shows that if this bill were to become law, it would show that the priorities of this legislature have completely shifted, and that our most important issue, our top priority, is to empower developers to put housing wherever the heck they want, regardless of all other priorities, regardless of any organized method of determining how towns are laid out, determining where things should go. You know, we just voted on a bill to essentially prevent development within 100 feet of any watercourse and wetland. Well, how do you think that if that becomes law, how do you think it's going to be enforced? Well, it'd be enforced under this that we're about to vote on. And under this, somebody could plop a housing development right in the right in a riparian buffer, and who's going to stop them? The neighbor's going to try to go to court and say you can't do that. Got 30 days. Figure it out. Get it done. Well, maybe they don't have the money to get it done. Maybe they don't have the resources or the knowledge or understand how to get it done in 30 days. We are choosing priorities now, and this is frankly not my priority. Hopefully it isn't this committee's priority either. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Rep. Dubitsky. I appreciate that. Are there further Representative Gucker online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all who have put in their ideas on where we're going with this. I am probably one of the few people that seems to this to me, I am not a lawyer, but I am somebody who has battled and fought many land use things in my community. In fact, it's what drove me to run for the legislature at the urgence of my constituents. And I can tell you, as much as I deeply respect the majority leader, and I understand where we do need this need of more affordable housing and more housing here in Connecticut, I will say that if this law was in place when I was battling some of the projects here in Danbury, the public would have lost. The public doesn't have the ability many times to even hire a lawyer to defend themselves, let alone have to prove their case in court beforehand. I think this bill is well-intentioned. I don't want to belabor what others have said, but to be honest, I'm not there yet. And as much as I'm not there yet, I can't support it at this particular time. And and it's really tough for me because I do have so much respect for the majority leader and understand the intention. But I really believe or feel that in its present state, even though I understand work in progress, really would not be in the best benefit of people in my community, and would not be in best benefit of some of us who are really fighting to have responsible environmental laws stay in place. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Representative Gucker. Let me be clear, right before it gets to noon, I said before we were holding votes open till noon. I retract that. The votes will be held open, a time to be determined as we get through some upcoming business here. So votes are held open indefinitely for now until a time is stated. Are there further questions or Representative Sweet?
Thank you, Chairman Parker. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Representative Shannon. You know, as someone who sits on housing and the environment, this is a tough spot to be in. I'm going to be a yes today to get this out of committee, and I appreciate the leadership of our majority leader in his substitute language, and I look forward to further conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any final questions or comments on this bill? I thank everyone for their feedback on this. This was a really significant conversation with lots of questions back and forth, which we appreciate the engagement of, and lots of comments, and we're grateful for those as well. As I said before, I just to our committee here acknowledge there are some issues, and if this bill moves forward, we'll continue to work on it. I think that message was sent loud and clear. I know that proponents of this bill are listening and have a lot of respect for the people that are working on these issues, and look forward to continuing that conversation. And I thank everyone for their commitment to the environment and to the work that we do here. And I think it's going to carry us forward with a lot of other good bills today and in the future. With that said, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
This is a roll call vote for House Bill number 6249, LCO number 6800 to JFS to the floor. Senator Lopes.
Yes.
Representative Parker.
Yes.
Senator Hockedal. Senator Harding. Representative Callahan. Representative Anderson.
No.
Representative Arzeno.
Arseno, yes, out of committee.
Representative Chafee. Senator Cohen.
Yes.
Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes no.
Representative Dillon.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
No.
Representative Gresco.
Yes.
Representative Gucker.
Representative Gucker votes no.
Thank you. Representative Horn.
Yes.
Representative Jacobson. Representative Jensen.
No.
Representative Johnson.
Representative Johnson votes yes.
Representative Leeper. Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky.
Mashinsky, no.
Representative O'Day.
O'Day, no.
Representative Piscopo.
Piscopo, no.
Representative Paletta. Representative Reddington Hughes.
Reddington Hughes is a no.
Representative Reyes. Representative Ryan.
Representative Ryan votes yes.
Representative Smith.
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon.
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Representative Sweet.
Yes.
And Representative Veach.
Veach votes no.
Roll is complete, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Clerk,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Representative Chafee votes no.
Oh, thank you. And that completes the roll.
Okay, for clarification and in consultation with the LCO, we are going to power through the committee meeting to knock out the last couple agenda items. The public hearing will start at the end of the committee meeting. But due to that, votes will only be held open until the start of the public hearing. We all good? Thank you. Next item. Beats me.
Item number 12, 6229, an act concerning a reduction of single-use plastics and polystyrene waste to the, we're entertaining LCO 6798, and I'll entertain a motion to JFS to the floor.
So moved.
So move by Rep. Gresco, and seconded by Rep. Sweet. Thank you. Any questions or comments about this bill?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
This is a roll call vote for, excuse me, House Bill number 6229, LCO number 6798 to JFS to the floor. Senator Lopes. Representative Parker.
Yes.
Senator Hockedale.
Senator Hockedale votes yes.
Senator Harding. Representative Callahan. Representative Anderson.
No.
Representative Arzeno.
Yes.
Representative Chafee.
Rep. Chafee votes yes.
Senator Cohen.
Yes.
Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Dillon.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
No.
Representative Gresco.
Yes.
Representative Gucker.
Yes.
Representative Horn.
Yes.
Representative Jacobson. Representative Jensen.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Representative Johnson votes yes.
Representative Leeper. Good timing. Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky.
Yes.
Representative O'Day.
Yes.
Representative Piscopo.
Piscopo, no.
Representative Paletta. Representative Reddington Hughes.
No.
Representative Reyes. Representative Ryan.
Votes yes.
Representative Smith.
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon.
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Steinberg. Representative Sweet
Yes.
and Representative Veach.
Rep. Veach votes no.
Mr. Clerk,
Yes,
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We are going to hold the next item on our agenda, item number 13. So we're going to skip right along to item number 14, which is HB 6241, an act concerning the agriculture industry in Connecticut. This is LCO 6799. I will entertain a motion to JFS to the floor.
So moved.
So moved by Senator Lopes and seconded by Representative Gresco. Are there any questions or comments on this bill regarding agritourism? Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move this on consent calendar, please.
Thank you, Rep. Piscopo. Are there any other questions or comments on this bill? Representative Dillon.
For today, I'll support putting it on the consent calendar. I think there are some issues with the language, and I'll look at it when it hits the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Seeing no objections, this item will be placed on the consent calendar. Are there further questions or comments on this bill? Moving right along, the final item on our agenda, item number 15. This is SB 80, an act concerning the burning of medical waste. We're looking at LCO 6806. I'll entertain a motion to JFS to the floor. So moved by Representative Piscopo.
Yeah, move, yeah.
And seconded by Representative Jensen. Are there questions or comments on this bill? Representative Piscopo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move this on consent.
Well, I appreciate the speed.
Object.
I don't think we're going to get this one on consent. Any further questions other than that? Seeing none. Oh, Representative Mushinski.
Just a comment that first, I'm speaking from having had one of these plants in my district. In fact, down the street from my house. If you use the continuous emission monitoring, which they are, and you have the high temperature and you know it's the high temperature because you're reading it, you can control the emissions that are a potential problem for the neighborhood. I insisted on that in my plant, and it's also true in this case that Bristol has that. If we add a new requirement in here, they're close to getting their permit, and they've been trying to get it since 2019. So if we keep changing the permit requirements, at this point, it's just more material being shipped to Ohio. So I hope people here want that to be reduced. I hope we're not in favor of sending everything to Ohio. It's 500 miles away. Not really a responsible solution to our solid waste problem. So I do feel that the current continuous emission monitoring will protect the neighbors there. And it's the same thing I insisted on in my own town. I hope we will not support the bill. I think they are covered. And this is just going to draw this thing out again longer and more material being sent to Ohio. So I'm going to be a no on that. You guys can do what you want, but I'm personally going to be a no.
Thank you, Representative. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
This is a roll call vote for Senate Bill 80 to LCO number 6806 to JFS to the floor. Senator Lopes.
Yes.
Representative Parker.
Yes.
Senator Hockedale.
Senator Hockedale votes yes.
Senator Harding. Representative Callahan.
Callahan, yes.
Representative Anderson.
Yes.
Representative Arzeno.
Yes.
Representative Chafee.
Chafee votes yes.
Senator Cohen.
No.
Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Dillon.
No.
Representative Doucette.
No.
Representative Dubitsky.
Yes.
Representative Gresco.
No.
Representative Gucker.
No.
Representative Horn.
Yes.
Representative Jacobson. Representative Jensen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Representative Jensen.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Representative Johnson votes yes.
Representative Leeper. Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky.
No.
Representative O'Day.
Yes.
Representative Piscopo.
Piscopo, yes.
Representative Paletta. Representative Reddington Hughes.
Yes.
Representative Reyes. Representative Ryan.
Votes yes.
Representative Smith.
Smith votes yes.
Representative Shannon.
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Representative Sweet.
Yes.
Representative Veach.
Veach is a yes.
That completes the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And with that, we're at the end of our agenda. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll for the consent calendar?
This is a roll call vote to place the following bills on the consent calendar. Senate Bill 1496, JF to the floor. Senate Bill number 1495, LCO number 6803, JFS to the floor. House Bill number 7171, JF to the floor. House Bill number 7170, JF to the floor. House Bill number 7172, JF to appropriations, and House Bill number 6241, LCO number 6241. Oh, that's not right. To JFS to the floor. And Senator Lopes. Am I missing?
Mr. Clerk, would you just clarify the
Oh, sorry.
LCO for number 14 was 6799? Is that correct?
Oh, I got the wrong number here. Thank you.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. Please call the roll.
Thank you. All right. Roll call. Senator Lopes.
Yes.
Representative Parker.
Yes.
Senator Hockedale.
Senator Hockedale votes yes.
Senator Harding.
Yes.
Representative Callahan.
Yes.
Representative Anderson.
Yes.
Representative Arzeno.
Yes.
Representative Chafee.
Rep. Chafee votes yes.
Senator Cohen. Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Dillon. Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
Yes.
Representative Gresco.
Yes.
Representative Gucker.
Yes.
Representative Horn. Representative Jacobson.
Yes.
Representative Jensen.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Representative Johnson votes yes.
Representative Leeper. Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Representative Mashinsky.
Yes.
Representative O'Day.
Yes.
Representative Piscopo.
Yes.
Representative Paletta. Representative Reddington Hughes.
Yes.
Representative Reyes. Representative Ryan.
Votes yes.
Representative Smith.
Smith, yes.
Representative Shannon.
Shannon votes yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Representative Sweet.
Sweet votes yes.
And Representative Veach.
Beach votes yes.
Mr. Chair, that completes the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right. Announcement and date of time of next meeting. We have a public hearing that will start at 12:30 p.m. today, which is when votes will be held open until. Following this, on Friday, March 28th at 10 a.m. in room 2B of the LLB, we'll have our committee meeting. And with that, I'll put the meeting in recess until 12:30, at which point we will end the meeting, close votes, and start a public hearing. Thanks, everybody.
Mr. Clerk, can I give you my votes or talk to you about some votes?
Sorry. Apologies. Rep. We got, I'll come back to it, but we got some people at the desk. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, what's going on, Tom?
How's it going, Jonathan? He's going to come back to us once he's done with the. He's got people at the table changing.
Got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Just put your hand up, Jonathan. Put your hand up so he knows you need him.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, hello all those waiting online. We'll take them in turn. Have all okay, Representative O'Day, we'll start with you.
Yes. Number, did I vote on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Okay.
So number 3, did I vote on?
Number 3. Yes, you did.
Okay.
Voted on 3.
4, I
on-
gotta change. 4, I gotta change my vote from no to yes.
On which number? Sorry.
Number 4, SB 1115.
Okay. You're a yes on number 4.
What else did I miss? Sorry.
And then no, you're good. And then we missed you on number 9, which is 7174 riparian buffers.
Yeah, no.
Okay. And also, I got you on number 10. Got you there. Consent calendar.
All right.
Yeah, we got the rest.
Thank you
all
very
set.
much.
You're most welcome. Okay, Senator Marr, you're next on my screen. Oh, Senator Marr, you are on mute.
Thanks, Casey. I think I only missed 17174, number 9.
Yeah, I think that was the one. So many pictures. And yeah, will you vote on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just double check while I have you. Don't want to lose a vote. Okay, you are all set. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Johnson, you're next on the list.
Thanks, clerk. I think I only missed one, and it was leaf blowers. Let me double check.
I think.
I think it was HB 6263, if I'm correct.
Sorry. 6-2. Yeah, we're also missing you for a few of the earlier ones as well. That's not on the consent calendar. So
Thank you. Appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. So let's start with number 2, 1498 concerning the park replacement statute.
I'm a yes.
Okay. And then item number 3 is 1497 programming at the Department of Agriculture.
I'm a yes on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, yes. 1115. That's a yes.
1115, I'm a yes. I did miss quite a few. Thank you. 11,
Yeah,
yes.
they came fast and furious at the start. And then 6802, item number 9, that was riparian buffers.
Oh, I'm a yes on that.
Okay. And now gas powered.
Now gas powered. Yeah, with that, good faith, yes.
Okay.
Yes on that.
And let me just double check we got for the rest here. Okay, you're all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, clerk. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, Rep. Smith, you're next on the list.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Just which ones did I think I got all of them.
I think you've got most of them, if not all. Let me just look right quick. Yeah, we got you for everything.
Terrific. Thanks, Casey.
Thank you very much. Representative Jacobson, you're next on my list.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. I'm a yes for everything, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote on live.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Representative Gucker, last but not least.
I think I have everything, but before I go, because I'm bouncing between 2 committees here.
Understood. Thanks for double checking. So far, so good. I think I got you for everything, but appreciate you making sure. Okay. Yeah, you are all squared away, sir.
All right, thank you. Have a
Thank you
great
very
weekend
much. Have a good day.
or a great week.
Hello again. I can't hear you.
I'm muted.
There you go.
Hello again, Senator. All right. I think I just saw one they were missing for you.
I think they said it was the consent calendar, but I
I
was
think it
on,
is the consent calendar.
I was online, but you could do it again.
Did I? Oh, no, it wasn't the consent calendar. No, I'm sorry. It's number 11, right? Right before 6800, Environment Protection Act, limiting appeals on that.
Yeah, I was a yes.
Okay. And you're all, yeah,
Okay.
you're all set.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye.
Yes on that.